Hey everyone, Rebekah here with the Tailored Realty team, and today is Tuesday, which means it is time for another Tailored Tuesday. This week we are talking about something a little bit different. We're talking about what does it take to get your house ready for sale. So when I meet with sellers, depends on where people are with their life, but oftentimes you have people in two different camps. You have people that want to do absolutely nothing, including like not even picking up their laundry. And then you have other people that are the over-perfectionists that want to do absolutely everything because they want their house to show it in the absolute most pristine way possible. So what I tell people when they're looking at selling, my goodness, when I talk to people when they're thinking about selling their house, I always talk about three different things that we want to do. So the very first thing that we want to do is declutter. So if you're looking at a property, first impressions matter, let's just be honest. First impressions absolutely matter. And if you want to get top dollar for your home, you have to make sure that it is in a presentable condition. So the very first thing is decluttering your home. Number one, declutter. So when people are looking at decluttering, what I'm talking about is really just, let's pick stuff up. So things should always have a home. Let's look at this picture that we have right here. So if you look at this picture that we have right here, you have a desk in one corner, you have a dining room table in another place. Now that's not where it's supposed to be. So if something in your house is not where it's supposed to be, it shouldn't be there. That should just be out of the space entirely. Let's look at this other picture over here too. In this picture here, you have just stuff around the countertops. That shouldn't be there. So if something doesn't have a home in the area that it is in, it shouldn't be there. That's the very first step for decluttering. So in decluttering, everything needs to have a home, and the things that are there should belong there. So get rid of things that don't belong where they're supposed to be. So example, in my personal house, in our very front room, with COVID, we had a desk, we had a piano, we had couches, we had everything. It became a makeshift room. When we were going to go sell our house, we had to get rid of those different things that didn't belong in those rooms, in addition to just picking up around the place. People should be able to walk through the home, and they should be able to envision themselves there. So get rid of stuff that shouldn't be there and that is a little bit overwhelming. So hopefully I drilled that into you enough. Declutter your house. Now the second thing is, let's make some fixes. So when I come over to your house, I might ask you what your overall intentions are, if you're trying to maximize your value or if you're just trying to get it on the market as quickly as possible. Depending on what your goals are going to depend on what my advice to you is. But in general, we're talking about let's fix up the property so that it is in show-ready condition. I hear sellers all the time say, okay, well this market is so hot, like do I really need to do any of those things? The answer is yes, because universally across the board, if you look at the properties that are actually selling at top dollar in this market, they look like they're in pristine condition and they are in move-in ready condition. Very rarely are you seeing a property that a buyer has to do tons and tons of work to selling very, very quickly. Oftentimes those ones are still sitting on the market. So sellers, beware. Just because it is still a seller's market does not mean that you don't have to do anything to get your house ready for sale. That's a total misconception. So when we are talking about fixing your property, again, it's going to depend on what your goals are, and I will always have advice because I have advice on everything when I'm talking with sellers. But one of the things that I would say is take a look around, make easy fixes. So if you're opening up the doors and you're hearing like a squeak, squeak, squeak when you're opening up the doors, get out that can of WD-40. Get that thing so that it is completely tip-top shape, because what happens is if buyers walk through your house and they start seeing, here's an issue, here's an issue, here's another issue, what do buyers do? They start thinking about all the different things that are compounding in your head. Let's eliminate those issues for buyers overall and start letting them think about what they would do to arrange their own furniture in your house and how they could live there. One of the very easiest things to do is paint and carpet. So paint is the cheapest and the absolute cheapest thing that you can do in order to get a return on your money, and it has the biggest impact overall. Let's look at this picture over here. Look at this fireplace. This fireplace looks completely transformed. It doesn't even look like the same fireplace. Now let's take a look at this picture. This is of a dining room over here. This entire room is transformed. Really, what did they do? They just painted the woodwork and then they painted the walls, and it looks like a totally different space. You'd be very surprised how oftentimes I meet with a buyer and they can't see beyond the color of a wall. They can't see beyond like, what could this room potentially look like? Get rid of those concerns for them. If you've got some I mean, even if your house has beautiful coloring throughout it, it still might be worthwhile to get a fresh coat of paint. It gets you the best return on your money as possible, and it helps the buyers look at things with a fresh new set of eyes. Another thing that you can definitely do is carpet. So carpet is cheap, and it's one of those things where it really helps change the mood of things for a buyer when they walk in and they see fresh paint and fresh carpet. Again, it might not be something that you need to do. We might just need to focus on some of the easier fixes, or we might even need to do more. Let's look at this next picture here. So this is a picture where here's the before and after. This kitchen looked kind of dark. It looked kind of dark, and honestly, this house wouldn't sell. So this house was on the market for quite some time and it didn't sell. But now we went ahead and we painted the kitchen cabinets, we replaced the countertops, and we added a backsplash, and this thing sold immediately. So that was a very simple fix to change those 3 things in this kitchen. Didn't cost very much money, but it made a huge impact on the buyer and their willingness to buy the property. So number 1, declutter. Number 2, make your fixes. So important to not just fix absolutely everything. You want to make sure that you're partnering with a really knowledgeable agent in your area so that you know exactly what you should be doing and how much money you should be spending, because you don't want to do something with your house that you're not going to be able to see a return on, of course. And now the last step is get photo ready. So when I'm talking about get photo ready, this is where we're talking about staging your house. Now, staging doesn't need to necessarily be an overwhelming task, but many different studies have shown that houses that are staged versus unstaged sell faster and they sell for more money. So it is important that that buyer kind of has that sense of home when they're coming through the house. Let's take a look at this picture here. Here we have a staged home versus an unstaged home. With the staged home, you can see here's where I would sit, here's where I would have dinner, and here's how I would use the space. Whereas without the staging, you don't know. Now this kind of the staging, maybe you already live in your house, but this also might be an opportunity for you to bring in some additional homey touches. So when I was selling my house, I got rid of all of like our wedding photos, everything else, because I don't want a buyer to walk in there and say, oh, I'm in Rebekah Foster's house. No, I don't want that at all. What I want them to do is I want them to look around and think, yeah, I could live here. Okay, yeah. So what I did was I got rid of all of our family photos and I replaced them with other things that made sense in the room. So like in our playroom, I didn't just add like the Mona Lisa or a reprint of the Mona Lisa or anything like that. I added fun, colorful things. I added like dinosaurs. I added a map of the world. I added other things that made sense in a playroom. So when you're looking at staging, add things that make sense for decor that help give that room a purpose and help define the space. We also have a stager that we meet with as well, and that stager has great ideas for what you're able to do with your existing items so that you don't have to spend a ton of money, but you can still get that effect for your buyers. So those are the 3 things that you really need to be focusing on to list your house. Number 1, declutter. Number 2, fix. And number 3, make it photo ready or stage the property. That's all I have for you today. I hope that you were able to learn a thing or two. If you did, let me know. If you'd like to learn something else, let me know that as well. We'd love to hear what you would like to hear about on Tailored Tuesdays. If you are thinking about buying or selling, make sure you reach out at team@tailoredrealtyteam.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.